Hello everyone, my name is Jackson, and today I'm going to talk about the circumstance we all face today, a big pandemic. As we all stay at home in the present time, many of you may want to know why we need to stay at home and how this pandemic has a big impact on us. So I believe that we all want this pandemic to be stopped so we can return to normal life. However, as we see, the pandemic is not going well in all American, and it's mostly because of lack of pandemic knowledge. Therefore, what I want to do is go deep in pandemics so we can learn about the scientific knowledge about pandemics. By learning this knowledge, we will know that what we should to do and what we can accept the future of the pandemic. And as usual, um, in order to describe the thing, I need to define it. So, what is a pandemic? A pandemic is an epidemic of an infectious disease that has spread across large portions of several continents or even worldwide. The English word came from two Greek words that means all and people. So pandemic means caused by either bacteria or viruses. So while many pandemics from ancient times through the 19th century were caused by bacteria, and the pandemic's future, like of the great concern in the modern world, are caused by viruses. So the pandemic we face today are caused by viruses. We all know it called COVID-19, even though our current medical condition is much better than ancient times. So our public health still faces severe challenge. So in the history of human, there are examples for pandemic caused by bacteria, which is called plague. Plague is a potentially fatal disease caused by bacteria. There are three major plague pandemics. The first plague begins in Egypt and spread westward. It cuts half of the Europe's population. And the second plague includes Black Death, originally in China and remained in Europe, caused the largest death toll from bacterial disease in human history. And third plague from 1860s to the 1960s began in China and eventually reached India and the US. It led to the identification of the plague bacteria and modern method of effective treatment. As today, plague becomes an uncommon disease and only occurs in developed countries. And the second example is smallpox. Smallpox is a serious infection disease caused by the Varroa virus. It keeps as many 14,000 Europeans each year between 1715 and 18th century. It estimated that between 300 million and 500 million people worldwide died from smallpox during the 20th century alone. And thanks for the successful vaccination, smallpox were eradicated, and no case of naturally occurring smallpox have happened since 1977. And the last naturally outbreak of smallpox in the United States occurred in 1947. And how does a pandemic caused by virus happen? So there are three major steps. First step, an exchange of genes between human influenza A virus and the avian influenza A virus. So step two is the exchange create a new influenza A virus with a hemagglutinin protein or both a hemagglutinin protein and neutral immunity protein from avian influenza A virus. So this new virus causes illness in infected people and can spread easily from person to person. Then an influenza pandemic can occur. So next, how a big pandemic affect human society. So these are the data I found from the website, the CDC website. This shows like how many countries are affected by the COVID-19 and the daily new confirmed cases and the daily confirmed deaths. As we can see, there are many countries in this graph. As today we're locked in home because of big pandemic caused by COVID-19. This is a time that every human faces an infected by a big pandemic. But pandemic for us is not only the event on the Facebook. So it is a disaster we all need to deal with in present time. And the people who involved in this pandemic are no longer only the people from the past. They are the people around us. And as you can see, this is the newly confirmed COVID-19 data of our state, California. And as you can see, there are much larger numbers for like overall data. And this is not only the numbers we see on the data, this is actual people. And I'll tell you some like real stories in pandemic. So here's a story I heard about on Twitter. It's a doctor named Dr. Laura Mirchabrin. It's a top emergency room doctor at the Manhattan Hospital that treated coronavirus patients. And she died by suicide on Sunday. According to her father, Dr. Philippine C. Green, she tried to do her job, she said, and it killed her. And she's trying to save the coronavirus patients, but like she can't save anybody. So she can't save everybody that get coronavirus. So the stress he get from his work killed her. And I want to give an example of how we can do to stop a pandemic. Like as common people, we don't have much knowledge about virus or bacteria. In the start of COVID-19, even the doctor didn't have any knowledge about this new virus. However, as soon as a new type of influenza that may cause pandemic being discovered, experts in biology field will start to research on it. As the time passes, people will know more and more about this new virus and its weakness, as we need to know the scientific researchers from experts and follow what they tell people to notice. Another way to stop pandemics is wait for the vaccine. Smallpox is an example that how pandemic being stopped by a vaccine. However, people need time to invent new vaccine for new viruses, and oftentimes pandemics are caused by new viruses. So before the vaccines being invented, people need to be careful and be safe. Since we are facing pandemic caused by COVID-19, this will be a great example of how people should deal with pandemics. And I need to give you guys some COVID-19 tips. Like after the research from scientists, we all know like its weakness and we all know what to do. So how does this process happen? Like how does COVID-19 spread? According to the CDC, the virus is thought to be spread mainly from person to person. This means it may spread between persons who are close contact with one another, or through the respiratory droplets when an infected person coughs or sneezes. These droplets can land in mouths and nose of people who are nearby or personally inherited into lungs. COVID-19 may spread by people who are not showing symptoms. So the CDC also reports it may be possible for someone to get COVID-19 by touching a surface or object with a virus on it. And by knowing these features of COVID-19, people get the tips about the above to stay safe. These are based on the painful experience and scientific research. For our own safety and public health, we need to follow these tips, and so we can help to stop this pandemic. So the best way to prevent illness from COVID-19 is to avoid being exposed to the virus, as there are currently no vaccines to prevent COVID-19. So as a conclusion, the history in pandemic is another history of civilization. The frequent and persistent pandemic will cause more social problems and further influences Perhaps many people don't know that in human history, the deaths caused by pandemics are much higher than the total deaths of war or other natural man-made disasters. The Israeli historian Yoav Lawson Harriet concluded in his textbook Homo Dedicus that human has always faced three major problems during the tens of thousands of years of development: pandemic, war, and famine. A pandemic we face today will not be the last pandemic in human history. We need to get ready for the challenge from the pandemic for today and tomorrow. Here's my citation page, and hope you guys all stay safe in home, and hope all the knowledge about the pandemic will be helpful for you guys. Thanks for watching.